Hello, welcome to another episode of Trust the Process podcast with your host here, Jon Bassford. In case you missed the first one, let me kind of give you a little background on myself. So I've spent my career launching and managing internal operations and cross-departmental functions for nonprofits, startups, small businesses. And even before having these operational roles, I have instinct, unique, intrinsic ability, I guess you'd say, of walking into an organization and challenging the status quo and analyzing what we're doing and how we're doing and why we're doing it that way to make sure that we're finding the best way possible forward. As my consulting grew and I worked with many different organizations, I began to see a constant pattern. And that was that many CEOs, founders, and owners just have a process they do not trust. Now, this could be because they know the process is broken. Maybe they don't even have the insights to even know if it's working or not. They don't have a process at all, so therefore they can't trust it. And oftentimes even they might have a process that seems to be working and they think they trust it, but it's never been stress tested. They've never looked deep into the technicals of their operations, their process, to see if that truly is the best way possible. So that's what we're going to be diving in this podcast about, looking at how process affects organizations and how we can create systems and processes that we're able to allow us to trust them so we can grow and scale sustainably. Now, if you've heard me before, you know that I talk about, to trust the process, it requires 3 steps. You got to diagnose. You got to look at what exactly is happening right here, right now. You got to take that data and plan for the future. You got to fill those gaps and holes that are existing that are holding you back, and then you have to execute. Now, most people look at failed execution as an execution problem or a planning problem. But what I've really discovered, probably more than anything, is that it's actually the diagnosis piece. They're missing the objective look at what we're doing, how we're doing it, why we are doing that way. We fall into habits, we fall into comfort, and we just do this the way we do it, maybe because it's what we've always done, or because we don't know the better way to do it. And so that diagnosis piece is very important to helping make sure that we plan the right things and execute accordingly. And I was recently working with a startup founder, smart, ambitious young man, building some great things, has the attention of investors and raising a lot of money for this AI-driven platform that he's developing. But I worked with him and I quickly saw exactly what we're talking about here: the trust the process, the diagnosis, the planning, and the execution. And I can tell a lot about an organization by stepping into their accounting practices. And this example was no different. And actually, I could even boil it down to how they handled their accounts payable. This was an organization that existed across 2 continents. They had 3 sets of accountants and bookkeepers, 4 bank accounts, 3 different systems for their books, 4 or 5 different places or ways to pay vendors, whether it was US or international, etc. And I stepped into them like, this is a mess. Like, they're overpaying, duplicate paying some vendors, not paying other vendors. And like, to me, like it stood out like, like a flashing red light with sirens going off, right? Like, I knew exactly what was going on here. They didn't have a process they could trust. But there are also some other components involved in this. It wasn't simply just the process. Looking at the leadership mindset, the operation, the culture is key to helping you diagnose, plan, and execute. And so I stepped into this, quickly saw what was happening. And the first thing that I realized I had to do was work on the leadership, because they had this micromanagement mentality of wanting to see everything, wanting to touch everything, wanting everyone else to see and touch. So I had to first, go in and work with them on letting them see what is wrong, showing them a right solution, and working with them to let go, because they were constantly worried about the unknown. And one thing about that is, I deal with leaders all the time, is that fear of the unknown, while knowing that what you're doing isn't working, right? What do you have to lose? If you know that your current system is one you don't trust, is creating duplicate payments, is creating a situation of non-payment, the only choice you have is to change. So you have to let the fear go, have some confidence, work with the right people who know what they're doing, and can create that system and structure, that process that you can trust. So I worked with him. It took a while, like 4 memos, probably a dozen conversations. It wasn't easy, but I finally got through to him about what we needed to change and why we needed to change it. And so I diagnosed the problem, exactly what's happening, created a plan on how to fix it, and then what to execute on that. And I saved that leadership team a minimum of 10 hours a week. Not just the CEO, although the CEO is a big part of that, but the entire leadership team. There were 4 or 5 people that saw every bill that came in, every step of the process. And so we were able to reduce the amount of time this leadership team spent on accounts payable, just one aspect of the business, reduce their time in that area by 10%. What would that do for your business if you could free up 10% of your leadership's time, of your time, by changing a little process? It all happened with me coming in because they didn't have someone in that role. So I stepped in as an interim COO. So I stepped into the role, quickly discovered what was going on, created a plan, and then went and executed that. And through that process, I had to work with the CEO and his mindset and letting go of micromanagement, let go of having to see everything at every step of the process. Then we also dove into the operation itself. We shored up the operations and made the process sustainable. And then I also had to work with the rest of the team and how to view this. And really, for if you want long-term sustainable growth, I wasn't with this organization long enough to see this part through, because they ended up hiring someone internally. But building a culture that allows your staff, everyone in your organization, to point out problems and to bring solutions is the best way to make sure that what you create and what you plan and what you execute is going to last long term. And that the minute something is broken, you're going to be able to fix it. So this is just one example with one client in one area of their business, and one specific area of their business, accounts payable, that changed everything. With the new process, the CEO was finally able to step back a little bit, trust the process. It still took some time. I'm not going to lie. Like, he would go back to old discussions we had 3 months prior, but little by little, he began to see it. I had to show him. I had to walk him through it, that the reason why these problems happened before, because there was no set process. Now we have one. Now he can trust it. And little by little, and I talked to the person who stepped into that full-time COO role on a regular basis. And again, she's still having to work with him on these mindset pieces, on the culture piece. But we created a process he can trust. The organization is no longer making all these constant duplicate payments, no longer constantly missing payments, because things are flowing in a proper, succinct way, while also continuing to tweak and change things to optimize them as they move forward. And that is what trusting the process is all about. So, for every episode, I'm going to be talking about my experiences in working with clients and walking them through just how they can diagnose, plan, and execute to create a process they can trust. We're going to be bringing in entrepreneurs and other owners and CEOs from businesses, nonprofits, startups, you name it, to hear what's working and not working in their organizations, as well as tapping into some extra experts. I don't know everything. I know everything. I'm curious about what other experts have to say about trust the process, and how they bring their unique perspective into what we do and how we help our clients, and how leaders and entrepreneurs and owners can think differently about how they run their business and be curious to find those better solutions. So I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Thanks a lot.